Hello friends, and welcome to Escaping the Mouse with your host, me, Breck Roll. Alright, today I am about 50 miles east of Waco in a town called Groesbeck, Texas. And we are at the Fort Parker Memorial Park. And I found this on Roadside America. There was an interesting monument here that I wanted to come and look at. But when I really read up on it on Roadside America, there wasn't really a whole lot of information about it. And I wasn't even really certain that there was going to be enough to do a vlog about it. But I did a little bit of my own personal research on it and discovered that there's actually a much larger and much more interesting story. Let's go and take a look at this. This is a historical marker in front of the park. It says Fort Parker Memorial Park. This site is a grave of victims of the massacre at Fort Parker by the Comanche and Kiowa Indians on May 19, 1836, in which Cynthia Ann Parker and others were captured. The trunk of the oak tree under which they were buried still stands, and the grave is marked by a granite slab. So this is a monument that I came to see here. Basically, like I said before, there wasn't a whole lot of information about this on the Roadside America page, except that it was a memorial to the inhabitants of the area who were murdered by the Comanche Indians in 1836. And the monument has a farmer, his wife, and supposedly his daughter. Now the interesting thing is the daughter is believed to be someone named Cynthia Ann Parker, and she wasn't actually murdered here. She was captured and actually became a member of the Comanche tribe and became the mother of a Indian who later became the chief of the Comanches. And this was very interesting to me. So I decided, okay, for that reason alone, I think I want to come and see this. And we can then tell the story here. It says their statue erected in 1932 to honor Silas M. Parker, Lucy Parker, and their daughter Cynthia Ann. And Cynthia Ann, like I said, was captured at the age of 10 by the Comanche Indians and became the mother of the chief of the Comanches. So let's talk about his story a little bit. So the story here begins with a man named Quanah Parker. And Quanah Parker was the son of Cynthia Ann Parker, who, as I mentioned earlier, had been kidnapped during the raid that killed a lot of the settlers in this area. And Quanah was born about 1845. There's a little dispute as to when exactly it happened, but he was born about 1845 and actually became a huge figure in not only the resistance to white settlement, but also the tribe's adjustment to reservation life. He was a nomadic hunter and leader of the Quanah assault on Adobe Wells in 1874. He was a cattle rancher, an entrepreneur, and a friend to American presidents. Now, as I said before, there's a little discrepancy as to when he was born. Some say it was 1845, others 1852, but there is no mystery whatsoever regarding who his parents were. His mother, as I mentioned before, was captured in the Comanche raid and later converted to an Indian way of life. His father was a noted war chief of the Nakobe band of Comanches. Despite his mixed ancestry, Quanah's early childhood seemed to have been quite unexceptional for his time and place. In 1860, however, Peta Nakona, his father, was killed defending an encampment in a battle against the Texas Rangers. By the 1860s, the Cohadas were known as mostly an aloof and warlike tribe of various Comanche bands. Among them, Quanah became an accomplished horseman and gradually proved himself to be an able leader. These qualities were increasingly in demand when, as a consequence of their refusal to attend the Medicine Lodge Treaty Council or to move their reservation as provided by the treaty, the Cohadas became fugitives in the Staked Plains. There, beyond the effective range of the military, they continued to hunt buffalo in the traditional way, while raiding settlements. For the next 7 years, Parker's Quahatas held the Texas plains virtually uncontested. Attempts by the 4th United States Cavalry to track and subdue the Indians in 1871 and 1872. Not only was the Army unable to find the Indians at Blanco Canyon on the morning of October 9th, 1871, the troopers also lost a number of horses when Quanah and his followers raided the cavalry campsite. Afterward, the Indians seemingly disappeared into the plains only to reappear and attack again. The cavalry gave up their search in 1872. But it turned out the time was really on the side of the Army, and as buffalo hunters began pouring into the plains, decimating the Indians' chief source of sustenance, Parker and his followers were forced to take decisive action. Determined to maintain their independence, or at least their survival skills as a people, the Quahatas, under the guidance of Quanah and medicine man named Isa Tai, formed a multi-tribal alliance dedicated to expelling the hunters from the plains. On the morning of June 27, 1874, this alliance of some 700 warriors, Cheyennes, Abrahos, Coayas, and Comanches attacked 28 hunters and one woman housed at adobe walls. From the Indians' point of view, the raid was a disaster. Their planned surprise was foiled, and the hunters' superior weapons were able to fend off the repeated attacks. In the end, the hunters suffered just one casualty, and 15 Indians died, and numerous others, including Parker, were wounded. Defeated and disorganized, the Indians retreated and the alliance crumbled. Within a year, the Quahatas, under relentless pressure from the Army and suffering from hunger, surrendered their independence and moved to the Coaya Comanche Reservation in southwestern Oklahoma. While most Quahatas, indeed most Indians, found adjustment to reservation life difficult or impossible, Quanah made the transition with such seeming ease that federal agents seeking a way to unite the various Comanche bands named him chief. While the action was recognized as outside the jurisdiction of the federal government and perhaps more significantly utterly without precedent in the Comanche tradition, the tribe, essentially leaderless, acquiesced. It was a fortuitous choice, for over the next quarter century, Quanah provided his people with forceful yet pragmatic leadership. As chief, frequently leading by example, Quanah Parker worked to promote self-sufficiency and self-reliance. To this end, he supported construction of schools on reservation lands and encouraged Indian youths to learn the white man's ways. Indeed, most of his children were educated, either at reservation schools or off-reservation boarding schools. Economically, Parker promoted the creation of a ranching industry and led the way by becoming a successful and quite wealthy stock raiser himself. He also supported agreements with white ranchers allowing them to lease grazing lands with the Comanche reservation. Parker defended this controversial idea by pointing out that herds belonging to white ranchers were already using Comanche pasture lands with or without legal sanction. Therefore, by concluding agreements with specific ranchers, Parker hoped to enlist the aid of whites who had a stake in preventing unlimited access to Comanche grazing lands. In addition, he called on his followers to construct houses of the white man's design and plant crops. In general, then, Parker was an assimilationist, an advocate of cooperation with whites and, in many cases, of cultural transformation. Along with his support for ranching, education, and agriculture, he served as a judge on the tribal court, an innovation based on county tribunals negotiating business agreements with white investors, and fought attempts to roll back changes instituted under his direction. He also approved of the establishment of a Comanche police force, for which he believed would help the Indians to manage their own affairs. Through shrewd investments, including some $40,000 worth of stock of the Quanah, Acme, and Pacific Railroad, Parker became a wealthy man, perhaps the wealthiest Indian in America at the time. As a testament to his successful conversion to the white ways, Parker was a close associate with several prominent Texas Panhandle ranchers, counted Theodore Roosevelt as one of his friends, and was frequently interviewed by magazine reporters on a variety of subjects, including political and social issues. For all of his efforts to embrace white culture, Quanah did not completely repudiate his past or endeavor to force his followers to abandon their traditions altogether. He rejected suggestions that he become monogamous and maintained a 22-room house for his 7 wives and numerous children. He refused to cut his long braids. He rejected Christianity even though his son, White Parker, was a Methodist minister. Quanah is a member of the peyote-eating Native American Church and is credited with introducing and encouraging peyote use among the tribes in Oklahoma. Despite his artful attempts to protect his people and their land base, by 1901 the movement to strip Comanches of their land had grown too powerful. The federal government voted to break up the Kiowa Comanche Reservation into individual holdings and open it up to settlement by outsiders. For the remaining years of his life, Parker operated a profitable ranch, contributed and seeked ties with whites, and maintained his position as the most influential person among the now dispersed Comanches. In 1902, his people honored their leader by naming him Deputy Sheriff of Lawton, Oklahoma. In October 11, 1911, while he was visiting the Cheyenne Reservation, he became ill with an undiagnosed ailment. After returning home, he died on February 23rd and was buried beside his mother in Post Oak Mission Cemetery in Cache, Oklahoma. At his funeral, he was dressed in full Comanche regalia, but befitting his position of a man of two worlds, he was reputedly buried with a large sum of money. Apparently, robbers plundered his grave 4 years later. In 1957, the expansion of a missile base forced the relocation of the Post Oak Mission Cemetery and the reburial of Quanah and Cynthia Ann Parker at the Fort Sill Post Cemetery at Lawton, Oklahoma. On August 9, 1957, Quanah was buried with full military honors in a section of that cemetery now known as Chief's Knoll. Now, one of the things they say is that there's a stump of a tree in this park somewhere, surrounded by wooden crosses that represent, that are the actual burial location of the settlers. Now, I've been kind of wandering around here. There's a number of trees that just as the stump or the base of the tree, but I don't see any of the wooden crosses. I'm going to wander around here a little bit. Now, see, there's a wooden cross right there, and maybe that's actually what they're talking about. Let's see if there's anything here that says anything on any of the markers. Well, these people were born or died in the 80s, so I don't think so. Maybe this is it. They mentioned a wooden cross and the stump of a tree, so this is maybe the closest thing I can find to being the actual final burial locations of the victims of this massacre. And basically, it's just the monument's right over there, so it's as good a guess as I can find, right? Now, like I said, Fort Parker was once located here, and it's been moved a couple of miles down the road. So I think we're going to go try and take a look at that also briefly. That's actually open as a tourist trap kind of thing, but we can't get into that today. Apparently it isn't open today, so we'll just kind of wander around the outside of it and see Fort Parker, as apparently it's supposedly just picked up and moved to another location. So I don't know. We'll see what we can see, but like I said, it appears to be closed today. So let's move on to the next location. Now, you know me, I love beautiful cemeteries like this, and this one, seems to have kind of its share of very, very old historical ones and then more contemporary ones. I've seen people, see markers for people, from the last 20, 30 years that are in here, and people from 150 years ago. So it's kind of interesting how some of these old cemeteries are still active today. There's a marker that fell down. That thing's way too big for me to pick up though, so I'll have to let the staff take care of that one. Now I found this marker over here, and this one says, "Here rest the martyrs of Fort Parker, killed by Comanche Indians May 19, 1836. Elder John Parker, Benjamin F. Parker, Silas M. Parker, Samuel M. Frost, and Robert Frost, in memory of those who laid foundations others have built upon." And right down here it says, Elder John Parker, 9/5/1858 to 5/19/1836. So this one's just over on this side of where the memorial is, and that cross that I saw, the wooden cross, is way over there. So I don't know, maybe different people died at different locations, but want to find the whole story if I can, right? And right over here is another memorial to the victims of that massacre, dedicated to the Fort Parker Martyrs, May 21st, 1989. This oak tree replaces the old historic tree under which 5 martyrs were buried in 1836. The old tree was later destroyed by lightning, age, and decay. So this must be another location here. And then of course they got a couple other markers. This one's dedicated to Texas Rangers who are buried here. It says, "Texas Rangers, to honor the memory of those few brave and courageous men who rest in this quiet place." And here's something else you don't see in California. A monument to Confederate veterans, to honor the memory of those who fought in the Civil War on the side of the gray. As I said, it's kind of fascinating that there's very new memorials here and very, very old ones. This one here is Elias H. Smith, born 1876, died 1924. This one's been almost here 100 years now. Now, while I was walking around here looking for the marker where the settlers were actually buried, I saw this one. This one kind of caught my eye. Found it kind of amusing. Willie the Outlaw. But then I actually looked at the marker, and his name is William D. Outlaw. So, how awesome is that? You can understand how if you're in the military, in this case World War II in Korea, how if your name was William D. Outlaw, how that could easily be turned into Willie the Outlaw. Alright, let's go over to the location where Fort Parker is now located. Alright, so this is the current location of Fort Parker. It's kind of a tourist attraction, but it's closed today. I gotta admit, as I was coming in, there was a guy that was out there taking care of the grounds a little bit. He was a little confused by me being back here. Probably thought that I was just coming to see this and go into it, and didn't realize that it was closed. But this is the fort here, and it's actually kind of a big complex. This probably is kind of interesting to look at. Probably have to come out here and check this out at some point. See, looks like they got kind of an old west ghost town kind of thing going on out here where you can check out. It says, "Smile, I'm on camera." Yeah, well, smile, you're on camera too. But yeah, this is what Fort Parker looked like. I'm assuming that this is this is the actual fort that they just relocated to this place. Now, when I first started looking up Quanah Parker, they started talking about these big giant arrows, and they got one here. Apparently, this is kind of a symbol of Quanah Parker. Let's see, is there anything on that marker I can read? No, not really. I'm going to go close up here. Maybe you can see it. I really can't. I don't have my glasses on me. But it's kind of interesting out here. Beautiful area out here, right? Looks like a fun place to check out with the family. It's really quiet out here right now. I suppose that's the way you go in. It looks like it's got it locked right now. Or maybe you get in over here somewhere. I don't know. We'll wander around a little bit and see what I can see. Yeah, it looks like sometimes they open this up so vehicles can come in, because I do see tire tracks here. I'm guessing those aren't authentic wagon tracks. Let's go see if we can see what's around here. There's a couple other outbuildings here too, so let's see what this is. So this is actually an authentic 1830s cabin. Apparently they relocated it here. It used to be very, very near this site, but now it's here. But holy cow, look at that. Imagine living there. Go around the back of it here. It's fenced off, so I'll stay out of the fenced off area, but look at the butterflies. Looks like it's been kind of coming apart. Maybe they're restoring it a little bit. Fireplace seems like it's in good shape. The rest of it seems like it's falling apart, right? So there's a little bit of a hole in the fence here. So I think what I'm going to do is hold the camera up, let you see inside. I'm not going to be able to see inside, but I'll check it out when I get home. That's the inside of Fort Parker. Now looking through the gaps in the fence, I see that there's like a platform that's like 3 feet off the ground underneath each of these holes. I'm guessing what that is then is those holes are for shooting through. Put your rifle through there, you can aim through that and still be relatively protected. Yeah, it looks like this is the entrance here. Now you might be asking yourself, why build the platforms inside and make the holes so high off the ground? It's because if you have a hole at eye level, then the enemy could technically walk up to the hole here and shoot in at you. But since they don't have a platform out here, that'd make that kind of hard to do. And it's actually very easy to hop up onto a platform inside and take out your enemies, right? So I think that's all that I have for today. I hope you enjoyed this one. I kind of had a good time checking this out. So thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you next time on Escaping the Mouse. Good night.